Bulldogs touchdown. So what was once a 10-0 Tennessee lead, hopefully you jumped in then. Brady said, we may need to invest in Georgia at the half. I said, it may not take till the half. It may be the second quarter that we jump in. And I'll be honest, I saw Georgia at plus 3.5. I didn't do it. I just sort of sat back and I watched. And it's okay. You missed some opportunities. I'm happy that Georgia's in front. That is what I care most about. So 14-10, Bulldogs are now leading, and still long way to go in this one, mid-second quarter. Whereas at last look, just to update here, Wisconsin, second and goal at the Oregon 2 with 11 seconds remaining in the opening half in that one. So man, what a world if the Badgers could take a lead potentially before the break. But we've got Las Vegas Chris here with us. We're talking NFL. Brady, Adam, hi. So listen, I'm glad that Brady brought up the Packers before and this test they've got with the Bears, because that is a game where we have seen, at least in terms of the public, and there's plenty of sharp action as well, but a lot of money has come in on the favorite in this one. We have seen a lot of money come in on the favorite to cover in whether it's the Lions against the Jaguars, the Vikings against the Titans, the Texans on Monday night against the Cowboys. You could mix in, if you want to, the Dolphins against the Raiders in the backyard for both of you guys. In the wake of a week, Chris, where the dogs barked as much as they did, who lets us down this week, among those heavy favorites?
Well, I'm not sure the money is coming on Green Bay. It actually has gone down. Is that what you meant to say there?
Well, what I will say is, so I'm looking at the splits, and what I will contend that the splits obviously don't tell the whole story, because the money shows you over the course of the entire week as the number evolves, but then you're not seeing movement in terms of the percentages as the number moves as well. So it can present sort of different things depending on when you check it out.
Yeah, because it feels like the line's gone down. It opened at 6.5. It's down as low as 5 currently.
5.5. Yeah.
And it is very odd. They're inviting you to take Green Bay, but this divisional rivalry, you don't know what to expect. But getting to your question on when you have the public on dogs, that's scary, because I don't want to be typically on dogs when the public's on dogs. And I don't know what the splits show on New England and the Rams, but that line has obviously been going down. So I like New England in that game, but it concerns me a little bit that the public likes it also. Those are, kind of situations you don't want to be in. But a lot of these lines have been kind of stagnant. The Baltimore-Pittsburgh game, that's sitting there like the house by the side of the road, and Kansas City-Buffalo. I'm not sure how many people actually want to bet that game. That's a coin flip if I've ever seen one. So what I do kind of like is the public dogs seem to be Atlanta a little bit, or Cincinnati for sure. Cleveland was a dog, and now they're the favorite. But when you look at Indianapolis, they seem to be the common thing that I keep on hearing is, who are the Jets to be laying 4? Well, they're still laying 4. And I don't know, I haven't heard very many people say they like the Jets. So that one is the most interesting out of all the games.
I agree with you, Chris. The Jets continue to be made a favorite week in and week out. And this time the public has jumped in on the underdog. The majority of the bets are on the Colts. I understand it. I'm not necessarily running to the window to lay 4 with the Jets either. I want to know about an interesting dog, an ugly dog. And Adam and I were talking about it a little earlier. The Tennessee Titans catching 5.5 in some spots now. 6 pretty much is the consensus number. It was as high as 6.5. And Adam was making a case for Minnesota. And I said, I think this team is certainly better than we thought they were going to be preseason, but not as good as they started the season. And they're starting to leak a little oil here. Sam Darnold was awful in his last contest. And I don't know if money's coming in on the Titans necessarily. Maybe it's a little bit of fade of the Vikings that they're starting to slip a little. How do you read this game here in Nashville?
Well, we have the contest elections coming out, and I think Tennessee is a good candidate to be in the top 5. I agree with what you just said. Minnesota started off with gangbusters. I felt like I had the lead on that for a little bit, and they've kind of regressed a little bit, and everybody kind of realizes that. But what I often see throughout the course of seasons is teams, become in favor and then they come out of favor in people's minds. And I have a funny feeling this Minnesota is going to show up this week, and I think they're going to do just fine. And my strategy on that game is I like Minnesota, but I think everybody's going to take Tennessee. And so why play it? I essentially have it. And I'm wrong because Tennessee didn't make the top 5.
Oh, the top 5 is out, huh?
Yeah, the top 5 is Cincinnati, Cleveland, Green Bay, Denver, and Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Interesting.
Yeah,
what do you think about that, Adam?
Yeah,
I mean, that is a game I don't really want a whole lot of part of. There, the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that my numbers tell me I should be taking the 3 points with Pittsburgh, but that's a scary game to try and get in front of either side, I believe.
No, I agree with you. I mean, because it's the whole Mike Tomlin against the spread thing, right? 61-34 ATS as an underdog. You know, his teams just find a way to thrive in this position. 22-10 against the spread as a divisional dog as well. The Steelers under Tomlin, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I was just so wholeheartedly against the move. Russell Wilson's looked really good since he took over as the starter for this team, and the offense is humming in a way that it wasn't when Justin Fields was under center. That coupled with the fact that obviously the Ravens defense is inconsistent. I think that this is a tough one to want to bet. It is. But I think that if you were going to be on a side here, it just sort of feels like, independent of how it actually plays out, the Steelers are the right, logical, trend-based side for people that like to invest in that way. I mean, the Ravens, they do enter the game with the NFL's top-ranked offense. Looking at some of these past meetings, though, the Steelers defense against Lamar Jackson over the last handful of meetings, for one, they've won 7 out of the last 8, but they have limited the Ravens to 10 points, 16 points, 19 points, 24 points, 14 points. Tomlin is in Lamar's head, Chris.
Well, you see those kinds of patterns that seem to go with Lamar. Can't win in the playoffs, can't lose against the NFC, can't score a lot against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's famous for doing exactly the opposite of whatever you expect them to do. And I'm not sure in this game what we expect them to do, frankly. I think it has me flummoxed. My numbers, I run 2 parallel systems, and one of them leans Baltimore and one of them leans Pittsburgh. And I'm going to be sitting it out. 2 big games I'm going to be entirely sitting out just because I don't really see any value on them. If I think Baltimore is due for a little slip up, I think Pittsburgh really needs this. They have a more difficult schedule ahead of them. They really, really have to bear down and get this game, and they're going to be 100% focused. I worry about Pittsburgh, though, because Baltimore, their offense is much improved this year. I mean, I think they're averaging almost 8 yards per play. It's absolutely ridiculous, and nobody's been able to stop them. So, but TJ Watt may just be part of the defense that can.
What about this? Just to stay with this game before we hit the break, what about the total? If both these teams, Baltimore's 9-1 to the over, Pittsburgh's 5-4 to the over. The Ravens games are averaging 57 points, while Steelers are averaging 30 points of offense since Wilson took over. Should we look to the over 48.5?
That would be my first instinct, but divisional game, high importance, high leverage game, these games tend to go under more often than they go over.
Want to hang out for one more segment, Chris?
Sure.
All right, more football the way.
Your main event, Tale of the Tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira, is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6 foot 8. Heina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Heina Fahera in the gray.
With that lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top. Oh!
Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown to that right there. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to get more of that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has of getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round one halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Heina Fahera. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work! Francis Ngannou wailing away.
Look how heavy he is on the hips. Look at that position. That's beautiful work. Hena's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the front. Oh, he's out! He's out!
We are back. Brady's here. I am Adam, Las Vegas. Chris joining us, talking through some NFL, but just to update people. So Georgia is up 14-10 against Tennessee, 2.5 minutes to go opening half. But the Volunteers are very close to getting inside the red zone there in Georgia territory. You've got Wisconsin with a 10-6 lead now at the break against Oregon. Did score a touchdown in those final 10 seconds before the half. And back and forth she goes. San Jose State had taken a 21-14 lead coming out of the half. It is now 21-all, about 6.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. So that is a fun one, obviously. And San Jose State will be getting the ball back here. But as Chris was mentioning, for Circa Millions, the most popular 5 selections are out, and we'll be able to see the percentages for the other games once everything is tweeted out. But the most popular plays: Bengals +2, Browns +1, Packers -5.5, Broncos -2.5, Steelers +3. You will note that the game with the biggest spread of the weekend that I was talking about right off the top of our NFL conversation earlier on this show, the Lions laying 13.5 or 14, depending on where you looked at that number. Chris, I told Brady I really like the Lions. I could understand someone not wanting to lay 2 touchdowns. I do get it. That being said, it's Lions or stay away from me. I would not, I said to Brady, I wouldn't wager Jaguars +14 with his money. How do you see this game?
I think this is the beginning of the end for friendly Lions, because I think that they cover this line, and then therefore their lines are going to start to become a little bit inflated and hard to bet. And amazingly, through this run, over the last couple of years, they've been hitting over 70%. This is, only seen before by the run the New England Patriots had all those years, and they couldn't make the lines big enough. And everybody loves the Lions because they're making money on the Lions. But if they cover this line, which I think they do, well, now you're going to start to really see some padding on these numbers potentially, and it's going to be hard to bet them going forward, unless they're really matching up in key crucial games. But that's my opinion, and I think that they can cover this number. There's no reason that they can't. They've got Decker back in to protect Goff. He was one of the guys that was out, and one of the reasons why Goff had his 5 interceptions last week. And they're getting healthier. And you don't have any Trevor Lawrence. You don't have other key players on Jacksonville. I mean, Detroit plays with intensity. I don't think they're going to get caught with their pants down in this situation. I think they have a clear focus on what they need to get done.
Chris, I tend to agree with you. You know, I make my own numbers at the beginning of the week, and then I dive into the stats, and I made the number 11.5. It opened up 12.5. Not a huge difference in those numbers, 12, 13. I mean, it was kind of like, well, let's go ahead and make it 15. I mean, it seemed arbitrary as to what you want. How much is Detroit going to beat this lousy Jacksonville team by? And so what's the difference really? 14, 15. It's hard to make a number. I think when you start talking 16, 17-point favorites, I think it's hard to come up with a number that big. And you're right. If they cover this one, boy, it's going to be even tougher to bet the Detroit Lions, because I think there will be some inflation in those numbers going forward. I want to talk about a game that I think is very interesting, one that I've been high on all week, and that is the Sunday night affair in Los Angeles with the Chargers hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. I made this number 3 in favor of the Chargers, and I was surprised to see it open up at 1.5. And you mentioned the consensus play there in the Circus Sports Million on Cincinnati. It seems like there's a lot of love for the Bengals, and it seems to me like it's fueled off of their performance against the Ravens the last time people saw them when they scored so many points. It also seems to me people are failing to realize that this defense is awful. The Chargers defense is very good, and this team is also starting to click offensively. Justin Herbert is now in the top 10 for yards per pass attempt. Harbaugh's got him slinging it. So things are starting to click for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think they get away with this one. The Chargers don't necessarily blow people out. They have the last couple of games, the Titans and the Browns. This one ought to be a little bit closer, but I think they win pretty comfortably.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Herbert is the 4th highest rated quarterback I saw this week, which was surprising because he's done it so under the radar, and they aren't known to be offensive at all. I think they've only been involved in 2 overs this season, and that was basic garbage time nonsense touchdowns that put those games over. So I kind of just chuckled when I saw Cincinnati up there because I like the Chargers a lot. My line isn't anywhere close to your line, Brady. My line is even higher. So you said it. The Cincinnati defense is abysmal, and they've been one of the worst defenses even over the last 5 weeks. In fact, I think they're number 32 on my list of the trailing 5 weeks. So with that in mind, I think now I looked at the health ratings for everybody. San Diego has no red spots. Every single offensive player is good to go and healthy. And that in itself, facing a team like Cincinnati's defense, that gives me a lot of optimism. And then I also think when you have a head coach like Harbaugh, and I was rooting against this guy at the beginning of the season as a U of M fan, he commands respect and discipline and loyalty. And these players play very hard for him. And they are fundamentally sound. That's what they practice, fundamentals, doing things right. And Cincinnati's not coached that well. I mean, they're coached all right, but they just don't have – they need to have more to be able to do the opposite of what the Chargers do. The Chargers do more with less, and the Bengals do less with more.
Chris, only about 30 seconds, but the Chiefs stay perfect against the Bills this week?
I don't know. I mean, if anybody tells me they know, come on. We can't even talk about the game. In all honesty, it's a coin flip. It really is.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to get into it. Hard to believe we've gone, whatever it's been, 2 hours into the show, didn't even mention it until just now. Maybe that's why. Maybe we can't talk about it. Thanks to Las Vegas, Chris. Really appreciate you hopping on, man.
Sure.
Your main event, Tale of the Tape, for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6 foot 8. Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
With that lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top. Oh!
Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown right there. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to Kimura that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round one halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work! Francis Ngannou wailing away.
Look how heavy he is on the hips. Look at that positioning. That's beautiful work. Henry's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the from. Oh, he's out! He's out!
All right, thanks again to all of our guests. We had Jeff Dawson, Colby Dant, most recently Las Vegas Chris. That means for the next, what do we got, hour and a half, it is me, it is Brady. We also will have Casey Hudson back in the Sports Grid studios with a college football update in a little bit. I will update you on what is happening in this moment in some of the games of note, including, most importantly, Tennessee and Georgia. So Volunteers, we didn't mention this, happened in the middle of talking with Chris, but Sampson scored a touchdown. It was a long touchdown run, so took a 17-14 lead, Tennessee. Georgia has the ball now at the Tennessee 40 with a minute to go in the opening half. And so quite possibly some Georgia points, maybe even a tie ball game coming up at halftime, possibly even a lead for the Bulldogs, depending on what they're able to do here. They've just moved the ball to the 32, so they're in field goal range. 3rd and 2, though, so need to convert here to force the first down and continuation of the drive. Otherwise, obviously, they go for the field goal. So we'll see. But a game that has lived up to the hype so far. There is no doubt about that. This is, the one that everybody had circled here on this Saturday. Kansas State still getting pummeled, but has just rushed in Avery Johnson 10-yard touchdown run. And so Arizona State continues to lead at Kansas State 24 to what is seemingly going to be 7, but we are extra point pending. Meanwhile, about 4 minutes to go in the third, Boise State and San Jose State, they remain tied 21 all. Boise State has the ball right now. So we'll keep you posted on what is happening. We'll check in on some of the other games that don't involve ranked teams as well. But I do want to circle back to where we ended that conversation with Chris Brady, and that is on this Chiefs and Bills game, because this is really, I sort of said this about Tennessee and Georgia. This is the game, right? This is the one that everybody sort of has highlighted on the weekend, saying, man, great game, potential playoff preview, 2 combatants in the AFC, the 2-time defending champs against their top challenger, seemingly, much as, you might like it to be Baltimore or a team like Cincinnati who's got an uphill climb. It certainly doesn't look like it's going to be Houston. Bills, 8-2, 4-0 at home. Chiefs come in perfect across the board, 4-0 on the road, 9-0 overall. Everyone always likes to tout the Patrick Mahomes against the spread as an underdog numbers. He is 12-1-1. Chiefs, as a matter of fact, 19-4-1 ATS in their last 24 games as a dog, which includes 18 outright wins, including Brady, the last 7. Now, the Bills' offense is banged up coming into this one, despite being a narrow favorite inside a field goal at home. Amari Cooper's a little bit banged up, but is available. Dalton Kincaid is not going to play. Chiefs are woeful against tight ends, so you look at someone like Dawson Knox, obviously. There's no Keon Coleman. There is Khalil Shakir. Maybe he is a focal point, given the fact that Cooper is not quite right. On the Chiefs side of things, you've got, Travis Kelce's been unbelievable since Rashee Rice went down for the year, obviously. He, I think, is going to continue to be the guy in that offense, as good as, we have seen, production elsewhere since, obviously, the trade for, like, DeAndre Hopkins, for instance. But what do you think? Is this one of those games where, I know Chris said, like, big game probably going to sit out, and it's hard to talk about and all of that, but is it go with the Chiefs at plus money, or is it stay away?
Yeah, good question. I think it's absolutely stay away. And if I was going to play the game, I'd probably play the Bills just in a contrarian move, Adam, because it feels like the entire world is going to be on Kansas City here. We've seen the Kansas City Chiefs throughout this season and even into last season a little bit as well. The Chiefs have really been down for about the last 6 weeks of last year's regular season before they hit the playoffs. And then this year as well, they're not blowing teams out. You look at their numbers, you look at their stats. If you didn't know they were the Chiefs, they'd look like a solid, better than average team. They should have lost last week to the Denver Broncos. They should have lost to the Baltimore Ravens early in the season. And that's what people have etched in their minds, is that Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, they just continue to find ways to win. And they do. And God bless them. More power to them. It's a huge credit. And it says a lot. That's what champions do. Even when they don't play well, they find ways to win. So I think that the fact that they're underdogs, everything is going, oh my God, this is beautiful. Give me the Chiefs and give it to me times 4. And that typically spells give me the other side. But yeah, I'll probably be sitting out as well.
I can't believe 7 straight wins as an underdog for Patrick Mahomes. My God.
Your main event, Tale of the Tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6'8". Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
That lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top. Oh!
Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown to him. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to come over that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round 1 halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work!
Look at that positioning, that's beautiful work. Ken's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the front. Oh, he's out! He's out!
He's in big trouble! And he's down! And he is done! The king has returned! Francis Ngannou
we're monitoring closely this Georgia-Tennessee game as we approach the half. We are not quite there. Georgia is looking for points, very nearly scored a touchdown, pardon me, but it wasn't a perfect pass, but the receiver clear drop or missed opportunity anyway, wide open toward the corner of the end zone, and I'm not in his head whether he lost it in the lights or whatever. Well, I don't know. Took his eye off the ball. He didn't catch it. He did not get off the fingertips and just never really recovered. And so, Georgia had to settle for a field goal. So 17 all, Georgia and Tennessee. As again, I said it before, this game is definitely living up to the hype. Down to 5 seconds left in the opening half and plenty of great action across college football. To find out more about this game and so many others for that matter, including games that we have in front of us tonight, let's kick it back to the Sports Grid studios and check in with Casey Hudson.
Thank you, Adam. You described that perfectly. We just saw Georgia try to level up on the scoreboard, but that was not the case, settling for a field goal there. But I will say this, I was weary of taking Tennessee to be that first half leader there, and they just have gone back and forth after Tennessee seemed to have a stronghold in most of that first quarter. So a number of things shaking up for Georgia versus Tennessee. It's do or die for Georgia, as we talked about on college football today. And let's see where things are stacking up. Before we fully dive into Georgia versus Tennessee, we've got Boise State that finally breaks the stalemate between San Jose State. 28-21 will be their lead. 1:42 left in that third quarter. And then Adam said it earlier, the beating continues. Arizona State over Kansas State. Don't know who had that one on the bingo card. 24-6 being the score as the clock winds down under 27 seconds in the third quarter. Tell me if you guys had this one. Wisconsin on top, 10-6 over Oregon. But that's coming out of halftime. 11-16 left in the third quarter there as they continue to move along. 17-17 Georgia, Tennessee. Looking a little closer at Georgia, Tennessee, seeing as how that's our star of the show at the moment. You've got Carson Beck with 183 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Frazier on the ground with 27 rushing yards. And then Delp being the highlight of this Georgia team, staying neck and neck with Tennessee. 56 in the air through 4 receptions and 2 key touchdowns to make this score what it is. We talked about it being the Dylan Sampson game for Tennessee. Why is that? Well, he's the leading rusher in the SEC. He's extremely hard to stop, and he was a key piece amidst a couple of injuries in Tennessee topping Alabama when they had their matchup. White through there, not much action going on, but for Sampson on the ground, 68 rushing yards. That's through 11 carries, and you also have the fact that we wanted him to grab a touchdown, and he did just that. So if you combined his rushing yards with the touchdown appearance, because as our friends over on Pro Football Today, Adam, Tom Vecchio, and everyone, looking at those negative numbers when it comes to touchdown props are not as sexy, but you combine some things and you can find better value. Georgia, let's just see what their defense does on the other side here. If they can stay attuned, then we'll see this being a much tighter game to continue to go neck and neck until that final whistle blows or potentially overtime. We've seen some fatigue when Georgia's relying on their defense. Luckily, the offense has showed up and not showed up with a number of mistakes, as we tend to see in these matchups. When you're looking at the time of possession in comparison, Tennessee sitting with 16 minutes and 35 seconds, Georgia at 13 minutes and 20 seconds. Not a massive margin when it comes to the offensive yards. Tennessee 193, Georgia 234. 4 penalties apiece for both of these teams, so no costliness there, which we saw a significant difference on a number of games across the board where the statistics were just not matching the results. So you can just see the hustle in this matchup. 4th down efficiency, Tennessee sitting at 60%, and then you've got the Dogs at 50%. Most of the pass game being deflected and broken up by Tennessee's defense, so we'll see if they can carry that momentum swing into the second half and make this a Tennessee game. Heading into this matchup, the books were giving a lot of illumination to Tennessee on the money line. Tennessee is that first half winner. I think we stick to the script here and see what goes on in those player props. But more importantly, let's see if Georgia can rise above their do or die situation and get into this playoff picture a little bit better. No shakeups when it comes to the other scores as Oregon and Wisconsin continue to move through the third quarter. Boise State and San Jose State move their third quarter, and then it's the end of Arizona State and Kansas State as Kansas State is trailing behind that magnificent 24-6. So for the halftime report, that's a wrap for me here at the Sports Grid Studios. Adam, Brady, continue to have some fun with In-Game Live.
Casey, thank you so much, and I'm just excited for the second half of that game to kick off already. I know we got to wait another 10 minutes or whatever it is, Brady, but what are your expectations? We haven't really, since the game began, talked about this game, just been providing periodic updates to people. So 17 apiece, Tennessee and Georgia. Of course, this one is in Athens. And looking at the live line, remember, coming in, Georgia was, depending on where you looked, 8.5 point favorite. You are now looking at Georgia as only a 3.5 point favorite. Now, again, we've started from scratch. It's a 0-0 game effectively, but still just outside of a field goal here for Georgia. Meanwhile, the live total is sitting at 57.5. What's your view of this contest?
I think this line is much more in line with what I would have envisioned, pre-kick. And maybe it's somewhere in between, like let's say a 5.5, let's say a 6.5. 9.5 felt awful high to me. And I understand there was speculation about the quarterback for Tennessee, if he was going to play or not. We did see that line dip. And obviously with him out of the game, the 9 or so makes sense. But, figuring he was going to play, I would have expected more like a 5 or 6 point spread. And so I think at this point, I said it earlier when Colby was on the show, wait till halftime. Looks like the Georgia bet could be in play. And yeah, 3.5, I think, is a very fair price. Now, Tennessee's been hanging around. You're catching that additional hook there on top of that 3. That might look pretty attractive if you're a Tennessee backer here. But I think Kirby Smart gets things worked out in the locker room. I think the defense will have a big second half for Georgia, be able to shut down that Tennessee offense more so than they have in the first half. I think the offense becomes a little bit more efficient in the second half. I think Georgia, I just expect a better overall effort. That first half, especially the first quarter of the game, was a little bit sloppy. And I don't know if they came out with a little bit of jitters. They were just trying to find their legs, it seems. Now maybe they have a little bit of a rhythm going. I think they'll find that rhythm in the second half. So I would lay it here with the Georgia Bulldogs. The 3.5 seems like a real fair number to me at this point, Adam, versus what we saw prior to kickoff.
Boise State has taken a 28-21 lead against San Jose State, who once upon a time led 14-0, of course. Lots happened in that game since. We've seen multiple leads out of San Jose State in that contest. The really interesting one, though, how about this, Brady? Wisconsin, who scored a touchdown in the final seconds before the half at home against Oregon with a 10-6 lead, still a 10-6 lead, but in the red zone, threatening for more and an opportunity to make this a 2-score game. Could go up 17-6 right here against the number 1 team in the country, 10-0 Oregon. What do you make of what we've seen from Wisconsin, even coming in plus 13.5, plus 14, whatever, you got the number at on Wisconsin? A lot of people who bet that are just saying, yeah, I just think they're going to keep it close. I don't necessarily really expect them to win. And yet here we are, midway, even late in the third quarter, 5 minutes and change to go in the third, and Wisconsin, again, with an opportunity to go up by 11 points.
Yeah, they're the favorite in game, -2.5 right now. By the way, Ashton Jeanty added his second touchdown, that Boise State score you mentioned, to get them to 28, a 36-yard run to pay dirt for Jeanty. We talked about how he was being contained pretty well by San Jose State. Now 4.9 yards per carry, 22 carries for over 100 yards for Jeanty and 2 touchdowns. Wisconsin, absolutely impressive. We talked about it being a possible flat spot for Oregon, but yeah, no, I'm with you, Adam. I didn't expect them to win the game. A lot of football left here. We're not even, into the fourth quarter just yet. Still 5 minutes left in the third. Oregon has to get their act together. I would hate to see them lose this game. I don't mind if they don't cover. I do not want them to lose a game. I'd like to see them stay undefeated.
Turned into a field goal for Wisconsin, so it is a 7-point game. Badgers lead.
Your main event, Tale of the Tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6'8", may now weight in heavier as the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
With that lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top. Oh!
Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown attempt. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to get more of that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round one halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work! Francis Ngannou wailing away.
Look how heavy he is on the hips. Look at that positioning. That's beautiful work. Henry's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the control. Oh, he's out! He's out!
Back here with Brady Cannon. Again, this is in-game live college football game day on Sports Grid. I am Adam Kaufman. If you are watching across Sports Grid TV or listening on SiriusXM channel 159, Sports Grid Radio, however you are consuming the content, even if you're checking out the show on Twitter. Either way, we appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out. We've got you for another hour and change, keeping an eye obviously on these college football games, some big ones, including that tied contest between Georgia and Tennessee, and the second half is just getting ready to get underway anyhow. And Oregon and Wisconsin, Ducks got to figure something out. Again, I want Wisconsin to, as Brady said, cover. Not necessarily looking for the Badgers to win. I think Oregon being 11-0 would be fun. But yeah, stay within that 14. Wisconsin, you are off to a hot start there, up a touchdown late in the third quarter. But let's keep going with the NFL. A lot of games that we've sort of danced around, haven't gotten in deep on. I know that we were talking a little bit with Las Vegas Chris about the Bengals and Chargers, who I don't know if he was deliberately, affectionately, or absentmindedly referring to the Chargers as San Diego, but it takes me back to a place. I look forward to doing that with the Athletics. I will call them Oakland, even after they have moved. Sorry, I know that you are in Vegas, obviously, but the Bengals at 4-6, 3-2 on the road. The Chargers, led by Harbaugh, 6-3 and 3-1 at home so far. Burrow and the Bengals, they have shown obviously they can score against bad defenses. We have seen that a number of times. Thing is, Chargers on the other side are anything but. This is an elite defense that is going to pressure quite well Justin Herbert and Bosa and Khalil Mack, as I struggle to get the words out of my mouth. They're going to be pressuring Joe Burrow. Now, he does have T. Higgins back. He is going to play this week, which is huge for Cincinnati, given that Jamar Chase doesn't have to be the focal point. A focal point, sure, but he doesn't have to be the focal point. He can take some of the pressure or have some of the pressure taken off of him just by the existence of T. Higgins being out there on the field as well. Avoid some of those double teams and all of that. This only works out well for the Bengals and that offense. And Chase, honestly, in particular, other side, for the Chargers, I don't think that much, Brady, of this Chargers offense. I do like Herbert. I just don't think he's got a lot there. Obviously they've turned over quite a bit. No Allen, no Williams. Now it's, Johnston and Palmer and McConkey and all of that. Some good young talent. I just think I prefer the Bengals offense. Thing is, the Bengals defense sucks. So the Chargers should be able to score in this game. Awful secondary. So the aforementioned, again, Johnston, McConkey, Palmer even. They should be able to produce in this game. I'm on Cincinnati with the points. Not a strong play. I don't have heavy conviction behind it. I think part of it is I just know in my heart that the Bengals are the better team. And no matter how many times this year that they have shown me they're not, I am going to hang on believing they are, if that makes sense.
I hear what you're saying. I don't agree with it, though. I think, and it's, we're kind of infatuated. I mean, I know what you mean. It's like the Bengals look like a sexy toy at times, and that offense, it can be incredible at times. But and then you get a Jim Harbaugh run team, run the ball in a cloud of dust and play defense. Yeah, certainly the Bengals look like I say, a prettier toy. But I believe the Chargers are the better team at the end of the day, and they're the more well-rounded team. The team that has a chance to go deeper into the playoffs. I don't think the Bengals will even make the playoffs. I don't think the Bengals are very good. Their offense is good. If you look at their numbers, yeah, their offense is kind of top 10 in the league, just across the board, almost in every category you investigate. The defense is the other way around. They're in the bottom 10 of the league, just every way you slice it, pretty much. There's maybe one or two areas here or there. But like I said, the beginning of the week, I made this number 3, and I said, I saw it came out at 1.5, or I'm like, did I miss something here? I just found it odd that people are giving the Bengals this much credit, and it seems to kind of go hand in hand with what we're talking about here. They look like a real sexy package without everything that they can do on offense. But the other side of the ball is not there. And I mean, look at some of the teams they've beaten and some of the teams that they've lost to. They're not really competing with the best of the best. That was maybe their most competitive effort yet. Was that, what was it, 35-34 or whatever it was against the Ravens, a couple weeks ago or whatever it was. But again, they can't stop anybody. So now you get up against a team that's not like the Ravens, that has a really good defense in the Chargers and is really starting to click offensively as well. They just beat up on a pretty good Cleveland Browns defense. They just beat up on a pretty good Tennessee Titans defense. What are they going to do to Cincinnati? So no, the Chargers have been on a side that I have been on since early in the week here, and I bet them a few different ways, and I will probably go to the window with them in the local contests out here as well in Las Vegas. So I'm all about the Chargers on Sunday night. I agree with Las Vegas Chris. I think there's a coaching mismatch. I also agree with Las Vegas Chris that every time I say Los Angeles Chargers, I have a flinch in my head about San Diego. I think that is the hardest one to get correct. I went to college in San Diego. I was a Charger fan going to school. San Diego Chargers is the toughest one to get away from.
No, I hear you. Some of these, it is funny just getting used to some of these either new franchises, teams that move. I mean, look, once upon a time, somebody probably had trouble with so they're the Baltimore Ravens. They're no longer the Cleveland Browns. And then the Cleveland Browns came back and all of that. Anyway, we're going to talk Seahawks and Niners on the other side. Very interested to get into that game as well, because it's just there are so many games on the schedule this week that are really fun ones. Like, I feel like a lot of the time it's like interesting team, bad game, and that combination of things. We don't have that this week. We also do have the data that we can explore for Circa Survivor and the full card for Circa Millions. And you nailed it once again, Brady. It's like you know what you're doing or something. The most popular selection of the 105 active participants of Circa Survivor remaining, the Detroit Lions. Not by a lot, but 34 against a team that honestly makes me really nervous, the Miami Dolphins at 31. We'll get into some of that when we come back.
Your main event, Tale of the Tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6 foot 8. May not weigh in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
That lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top. Oh!
Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown to him.
Right there.
Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to Kimura that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round one halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work! Francis Ngannou wailing away.
Look how heavy he is on the hips. Look at that position. That's beautiful work. Hender's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the throw. Oh, he's out! He's out!
Back with Brady, we have got the data out for Circa Survivor. I was just starting to mention it as we were headed to break. Still not in the second half for Georgia and Tennessee yet, if you can believe that. The Lions, 34 entries of the 105 remaining. The Dolphins at 31. These two squads heavily represented here, Brady. Obviously, as people have, this is the chase for $14 million on the line. You mentioned it earlier. The implied is $1,000 to enter this contest, 14,000 plus entries. The implied value of the ticket, if you will, for the people that are remaining in this thing is $136,000. That is I don't know how many people have partnered off with other people since and, sold a portion of their ticket off, so to speak, and have investors and all of that to, obviously limit your winnings, but mitigate your damage and ensure that you get out with something and all of that stuff. But Lions, I get. I love the Lions this week. I've mentioned that. We haven't talked about the Dolphins and Raiders. That, to me, that's a risky side to be on with the way Tua and that offense has been playing even since his return, never mind how Miami looked in his absence. We also have the Packers at 11, the Vikings at 11. That is your top four. From there, singular entries on the Rams, the Texans, the Niners, and the Browns. What do you make of the board?
Well, first of all, my colleague on the Las Vegas Football Contest show, James Salinas, was accurate in saying, what about the Browns? He felt that was kind of a good under-the-radar play. Now, it's a pick'em game. It's risky. They're on the road. But are you ever going to use the Browns at any other spot come this season? Probably not. 100% availability. You can see there if you're looking at the Circa Survivor selections, all 105 entries had the Browns available. So I kind of like that pick right there. Obviously, they have to win, but you're certainly going against the grain there, zigging while everybody else is zagging for sure. The Rams, I feel, is a little bit risky. The Texans, I understand. Dallas looks awful these days, but again, that's a road favorite. That's always, concerning. The 49ers, another road favorite. The Vikings, a road favorite. The Packers, a road favorite. A lot of road favorites here on this list. Like you and I talked about, the Lions would be my selection. I'd probably rather play the Chiefs or the Packers on Thanksgiving. Remember, this is Circa Survivor, not traditional Survivor. Circa Survivor, the 4 games on Thanksgiving, that Thursday and that Friday, are a separate week. You got to pick one of those 4 games for a winner as well. So a lot of people are saving the Lions, who host the Bears, for Thanksgiving. You'd love to have that in pocket. But I kind of like getting the win here over Jacksonville, survive, advance, and move on. I'm with you, Adam. The Dolphins is probably the most concerning to me. I found that was the biggest discrepancy I had in my line versus what the actual line was this week. I made this number 3, and I could understand maybe it's 4, maybe it's 4.5, maybe it's 5, but it opened 8. And they immediately bet the Raiders down all the way to 7. I think the Raiders are still a play at 7. Now, less than that, you're not necessarily taking a good number at any point after that. But, all of a sudden the Dolphins won a game on Monday Night Football in what was a good spot for them, in a situation where I felt the stock was getting too high on the Los Angeles Rams. Everybody was all of a sudden falling in love with Los Angeles after they'd won a few games in a row. And Miami certainly was improving with Tua now in his 3rd start back, but they've lost 6 out of 7 games. I don't know if they deserve to be a touchdown favorite over anybody at this point just yet. Tua obviously still fragile. The running game is concerning. The running game is starting to click a little bit. And can the Raiders defend that? That I believe would be the ticket to victory for Miami. If they can run the ball, they will win this ball game. But the Raiders' defense is not that bad. It's the offense where they've really had problems. I like Gardner Minshew in there better than I do O'Connell or Desmond Ridder or what have you. I like the fact that they've gotten rid of some coaches, including their offensive coordinator. That tells me that they want change to happen immediately, and they're not throwing in the towel and waiting until the end of the year. They're off of a bye week that they went into in which they were struggling, having lost 5 in a row. The pause is good. That gives them time to clean house, fire some coaches, reset, and hopefully come out on the other side with a much better effort. So I'm with you. I'll take the Raiders with the points, and I wouldn't be surprised if they pull one off.
Yeah, I just, if I've got, a potential $14 million win on the line, down the line, but on the line.
They took the Giants and the Saints in the last couple of weeks.
I'm not going anywhere near Miami this week, Mike.
Your main event, tail of the tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6'8". Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
With that lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top. Oh!
Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown to him. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to get more of that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round 1 halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work! Francis Ngannou wailing away.
Look how heavy he is on the hips. Look at that positioning. That's beautiful work. Henry's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the bottom from. Oh, he's out! He's out!
All right, so we have broken down the Circa Survivor board. Let's just, we did this a little bit with Las Vegas Chris earlier before we keep going back through game by game, all of that. By the way, Georgia, Tennessee, second half finally underway. It felt like an eternity. It's like it was a halftime concert or something like that. But they know how important this game is in prime time on the national networks. But showing it to us again, we do have Circa Millions and the complete board out. Again, the most popular selections this week. Read them off earlier. I'll read them again. Packers -5.5, Browns +1, Steelers +3, Broncos -2.5, Bengals +2. What I will ask you here to start, Brady, is any game that you expected to be part of this group that isn't, or obviously did you do something on your card because you're part of this when you were strategizing your efforts, thinking that okay, this is something that I would like to be on, but I think a lot of people are going to be on it, and so I'm going to leave it off. And now you look at the board and you see it's not there.
Yeah, good questions. And they all factor into your contest handicap, if you will, which is different from just your betting handicap. You're playing against a field. You want to separate yourself. It's not necessarily about trying to cash a ticket at the window. I didn't know that the Bengals were going to be popular, except for the fact that it's +2 in the Circa contest. Okay. And pretty much everywhere else in the world, it's the Chargers -1 or 1.5. So I understand that. You're getting a better number than is readily available. So that makes sense there. I definitely expected the Browns to be a popular pick because, as Chris mentioned, they've now moved to the favorite. Not a huge difference between -1 and +1, but hey, every little bit counts here, and you're getting +1 in the contest as opposed to what is available in the live market. So I did expect that one. You alluded to it earlier, the popularity of the Packers. And I tell you what, in the Westgate Super Contest, the number is 5, Adam. There's going to be an abundance of Packer love in the Super Contest. It's 5.5 here. That didn't matter. They still laid it in the contest here with the Packers. So I expected that one. The Steelers confuses or puzzles me, shocks me a little bit. We talked about that that's kind of a game you don't want any part of. But boy, there are, 2,700 selections. Almost half the field is involved in that game. You've got, almost 1,200 on the Ravens and a little over 1,500 on the Steelers. So a lot of people, and this is another one. We talked about this with Chris as well. Like, what do we say about the Chiefs and the Bills? I mean, it's a coin flip. Let's go play. I don't have a lot of analysis, right? Well, there's 2,800 people on that game. 1,440 took the Chiefs. 1,412, a slight minority, took the Bills laying 2.5. I can't. That split right there is shocking. You've got a 50-50 split almost on those two games. That's pretty wild right there.
I'm just sort of looking at the board and thinking, all right, where would I be? And does anything really, like the Packers, Bears, I get. Browns, I certainly get. I'm on Cleveland this week. The Steelers, we talked about that before, pardon me. Pittsburgh is, I don't know how it's going to play out, but to me it does feel like Pittsburgh is the right side to at least be on. As far as I don't like the Broncos-Falcons. I would be more inclined to want to be on Atlanta in that side. And I know we haven't really talked about that game yet. And again, the Bengals-Chargers, I like Cincinnati there. If I were looking, though, and saying what game would I think would be on here that isn't necessarily, man, I guess I am a little surprised the Vikings -6 and maybe Colts +4. We were talking about this a little bit earlier with Las Vegas Chris. Colts +4 has been a very, very popular play so far within the football betting community. Why don't we pick up by talking about that game a little bit?
Well,
because
what's interesting too, Adam? Let me just interject here. We're talking about, there's 2,800 people on the Chiefs and the Bills, and it's basically split down the middle. There's 2,700 people on the Ravens, and the Steelers nearly split down the middle. The Colts and the Jets, there's only 1,500 people that played that game, but twice as many, over 1,000, are on the Colts. So the split is exaggerated, right? To your point, absolutely a very popular play, the Colts. It didn't make one of the most of the 5, but that's kind of just the volume of the game. And I think it speaks to the Jaguars and the Lions and the Vikings and the Titans. There's not a ton of people in this contest that wanted any part of those games because they're kind of polarizing numbers. We talked about the Vikings. They're kind of leaking oil. The Titans are so bad. Do I want to lay the points with the Jets, even though the Colts look like a public dog? Do I want to lay 14 points with the Lions, but they're playing the awful Jaguars? So I think there's a lot of, want to stay away in those games. But yeah, the popularity of the Colts over the Jets is not surprising.
The only thing that makes it maybe a little surprising is Joe Flacco was terrible last week. 3 interceptions. I didn't necessarily expect him to be benched in the wake of it, simply because we're just seesawing. This Colts regime couldn't be screwing up Anthony Richardson more. I mean, I've seen this movie before. I watched this with Bill Belichick and Mac Jones in New England for multiple years. This yo-yoing of, we like you, we not like you. We have confidence in you, we don't have confidence in you. The Carolina Panthers are kind of doing the same thing with Bryce Young, even though it seems like they've already checked out on him, although he's won his last couple and it's going to start again, obviously, for Carolina's next game. Anthony Richardson coming back into this one now, with as bad as he has played so far this year, when we have seen him, he missed time originally, and then it was Flacco, and then he just gets benched, and obviously it's Flacco. You said it earlier, who are the Jets to lay for? And I agree. Aaron Rodgers has been abysmal. That offense has been worse than it was with Zach Wilson at the helm. It has been really bad, and they've got Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, never mind Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson and everybody else. But, man, the Colts, Richardson sort of stinks. At least he has so far this year. Pittman is, he's got the back injury. Jonathan Taylor is in a great spot, but that's really the only guy that's in a truly great spot. Josh Downs, as well as he's played, his connection has not been with Richardson. It's been with Flacco. And so it's hard for me to support it, even though I bet Indy. I'm rambling, I know. Even though I bet Indy, I didn't bet it with a whole lot of conviction. I just bet it because it's the Jets blow. So we're gonna put our investment, our faith in the Colts here. But I mean, how could we with real conviction say, yeah, Indianapolis +4? Of course.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I don't mind too much about what they have done with the quarterback situation there. I think it's been a difficult juggling act, and I have a lot of faith in Shane Steichen. I think he's a good coach. I know Anthony Richardson is a great kid, a very high character kid, and I think one day he's going to be successful in this league. He just needs development. He needs reps. He's got a ton of talent athletically, and I think this Jets team, a lot of people on this team, I think, have checked out. I mean, it got to the point where the coach was going over basic fundamental tackling drills. They missed 20 tackles in that loss to the Arizona Cardinals. Over their last 5 games, they have been averaging, the hundreds of tackles missed, not averaging per game, but total over the course of the game. Yeah. And they're, once CJ Mosley is no longer in that lineup, they lose all kinds of physicality. And so I think Anthony Richardson is actually a great piece of medicine for the Colts to be physical and run that ball with Jonathan Taylor and crush this Jets defense that doesn't seem to pack any punch anymore.
I'll give you a trend as we hit the break. The Jets 3-9-1 against the spread their last 13 games as a favorite. That includes outright losses to the Patriots and Broncos.
Your main event, Tale of the Tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6 foot 8. May not weigh in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
That lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top. Oh!
Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown right there. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to Kimura that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round one halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work!
Look at that position, that's beautiful work. Hender's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the control. Oh, he's out! He's out!
Trouble! And he's down! And he is done! The king has returned! Francis Ngannou is back!
All right, Cannon. Well, I keep saying we're going to talk Seahawks-Niners. We're going to talk Seahawks-Niners, and we don't talk Seahawks-Niners. So let's, talk Seahawks-Niners. This is a fascinating game to me, at least on paper, and I hope the reality of it plays out. The Niners, of course, won their previous meeting earlier this year, 36-24 in Seattle. It was mostly a blowout in Seattle with some garbage time points. Now the Seahawks are coming off a bye. The Niners have beaten the Seahawks, here's a trend, by 8+ points in their last 6 meetings for an average of 13-point victories. Seahawks have lost 12+ points this year so far to the Bills, Lions, Niners, as mentioned. Geno Smith, he doesn't get up for it against some of the better teams. They'll beat the bad teams, but the better teams, Seahawks have largely gotten their doors blown off. Now, Christian McCaffrey was not even available in that game. He is going to play in this one and has looked good in his return. A little up and down, I guess, in his debut, but I say a little for good reason. Running the ball, look at the numbers here. It was a 23-20 win against the Buccaneers. He only carried the ball 13 times, had 39 yards. I realize, yards per carry, that stinks. That is not CMC-like. But the dude did have basically 100 total yards because he went for 6 for 68 in the receiving game. He can just hit you in so many different ways. This offense is so dangerous when healthy. I know they're not completely healthy. There's no Brandon Ayuk, but he's not coming back. So it's CMC. It's Debo, who has torched Seattle in his career. I'll give you more numbers on him in a minute. George Kittle, even Juwan Jennings has looked solid. Jordan Mason, when CMC's been unavailable, all of it. It's nearly a touchdown spread. It's a 6.5 point number. So the books are expecting San Francisco, or at least want the people to invest in San Francisco, to go out and do it again. Will the Niners respond accordingly?
I tend to lean that way, Adam. There's a little love for the Seahawks out there off of the bye division game. The problem is I can't find a real edge here. My numbers come out to basically exactly what it is. I made it 5.5 myself. And when I crunch all the stats, I come out to Niners at 6.5. So, nothing really from the get-go said, something's odd here. I want to look. The situation is probably better for Seattle off of the bye. The Niners looked very pedestrian against Tampa Bay, against the Tampa Bay team that we thought was probably reeling after they just left it, emptied the tank against the Kansas City Chiefs the week prior. Now, if Jake Moody hits a few field goals, maybe our tone is different here because the Niners cover the spread. But I thought they should have dominated that team, and hats off to Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay. The Niners didn't dominate them at all. I think they can dominate Seattle. I think they've had this team's number for a while. Geno Smith tends to make mistakes, turn the ball over. I'm not going to bet this game. I probably won't be playing it in a contest. The number's probably about spot on. I could see the Niners winning by 7, 8, 9, 10 points. I could see Seattle losing by 4 or 5 points. It's just probably not one I want to get invested in. And like I say, I think what you're looking at here, as far as a 6.5 point spread, is probably about what we're going to get.
Historically, Brady, Deebo Samuel has killed Seattle. He has faced them so far 6 times in his career. Between 94 and 157 total yards, rushing and receiving, in each of those games. 7 total touchdowns in those 6 games. When they matched up earlier this year, he went 3 catches, 102 receiving yards, and a touchdown. His receiving prop is in the mid-50s. I mean, do we have to not only smash that over, but ladder the guy up to 100?
Maybe if you want to. The one thing you have to be careful of here is, if I recall, the Seattle Seahawks were a lot more banged up in that first meeting with San Francisco, especially in the secondary. That secondary has been very beaten up in the first part of this season, and they are all healthy now. So things could change quite a bit in that regard for the Seattle Seahawks, in that regard for Deebo Samuel and his success against the Seattle Seahawks. So I wouldn't necessarily just run to the window with that one, because there's a lot of different personnel that are going to be in this game that weren't in the last one.
Just checking in on Georgia and Tennessee, and it is still 17-all, but 3rd and 7 for Georgia at the Tennessee 20. So they are very much in field goal range, maybe even better, obviously. Prime opportunity to take a lead. It is midway through the 3rd quarter currently. They are reviewing on the field right now whether or not there should have been a potential pass interference after a play broken up. So we'll let you know how that is potentially handled. Well, it looks like they're questioning whether it's an incomplete pass or whether it was held on to ever so briefly and fumbled away. I think there was potentially a penalty, but putting my feelings aside, we'll see. Wisconsin now tied with Oregon. The Ducks did score a touchdown here in the 4th quarter early on. Now it is mid-4th and a 13-all game, and the Badgers do have the ball. They are at the Wisconsin 20, so, uphill climb, obviously. We'll see if they can do anything offensively. Most of that damage came in the 2nd quarter, but anything in either of these 2 tied games that you like right now? I will tell you, the live numbers, we have Georgia at -6.5. Wisconsin is +3.5, but that is heavily juiced.
Yeah, that Georgia number's gotten back into that territory where I don't want to mess with it a whole lot. I love that -3.5 at halftime. I probably wouldn't go back to the -6.5 here. And the Oregon number was 3.5. I don't really like that hook on top of the 3. Wisconsin's got the ball, less than 8 minutes left in the 4th quarter there. Maybe we're headed for overtime. I'd probably take it with Wisconsin. I don't feel great about it, though, Adam, because we could have had more points earlier, obviously prior to kickoff, what have you. I feel like Oregon's going to find a way to win this game, but I don't think it's going to be my margin. So I'd lean with Wisconsin there. Also, Iowa State has come all the way back to now lead Cincinnati by a touchdown. Still a lot of time left there, 5 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter, but good on the Cyclones for getting their act together.
Meanwhile, Brady, Texas A&M is throttling New Mexico State. It's a 31-0 game. New Mexico State with the ball.
They're
that
not
is at the end of 3.
yet,
Washington State up 14-7 at New Mexico. That is not even the end of the opening quarter.
Your main event, tail of the tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6 foot 8. Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
That lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top. Oh!
Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown from him. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to get more of that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round one halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work! Francis Ngannou wailing away.
Look how heavy he is on the hips. Look at that positioning. That's beautiful work. Hender's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the bottom from. Oh, he's out! He's out!
So we just got a Georgia touchdown mid-third quarter, actually about 5.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. The Bulldogs have taken a lead 24-17. That is the good, at least for me, on the Georgia side. Here's the bad for both Brady and I. If you were on San Jose State, plus 14 pregame, a team that was up 14-0 in this game, now in the final 2 minutes, Blue Mountain State over here. I know it's Boise State, but they have the same colors. And for anyone that gets the reference, applaud you. Boise State, a pick six, 42-21, Brady. I don't know how. How bad do you have to be up 2 touchdowns? And it's not dead yet. It's not, we just got a big gain. San Jose State is 1st and 10 at the Boise 17. So we are not dead, but we are sitting here rooting for a push, which is like, I hate that we're even rooting for a push with 1:15 to go, but we are. We're just rooting for, thanks. Can I have my money back? Thanks for the entertainment there for the last few hours. It is unreal, though, that they were up 14 points and are not going to bring home a win. I don't mean win the game. I mean win the cover for us bettors when you have that large a lead. 2nd and 5 at the Boise 12 now.
Well, and tied at halftime, too. And we know San Jose State does not have a good defense, but they have a very good offense, and that was part of the handicap of this game. You felt that they could trade punches with Boise State, and they did for a long time. And it was that one mistake, the pick six here in the final minutes, but we still might get home. And I was looking good. I looked over here at the screen and saw that there was 2 minutes left. Boise State had the ball, trailing by 14. I believe, I'd have to check my ticket, but I think I'm getting 14.5. So obviously that's a big deal. Every half point matters, like they say. I'm really hoping that the Spartans can get in the end zone here. And then let's just call it a night and move on. Ashton Jeanty and his 3 touchdowns and his continued pursuit of the Heisman Trophy. Everybody can go home happy, and you and I maybe cash a ticket here in the final waning moments of this contest.
That would be nice. We'll root for that, but I don't have the hook, so I'll root for you, my friend. Unfortunately, I don't have the hook.
There's nothing worse. That is one of the worst things, I think, in sports betting, when you get to a point where you're rooting for a push that's a tough spot, isn't it?
Just-
there's a website or a T-shirt or something in there, right? Rooting for a push. There's some sort of T-shirt, I think, in that phrase. We'll have to come up with that.
I'm pretty sure Jalen Hurts wears it around the locker room every day, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, there you go. Rooting for a push. No doubt about it.
All the tush pushes, all the touchdowns we're not going to talk about the Eagles. They already played this week, but let's talk about the Falcons and the Broncos. This one's interesting. And again, we mentioned this was, part of the contest plays. Maybe I'm misguided. I think the wrong team is favored. I really do. I like Atlanta with the points. 6-4 against the Broncos at 5-5. And I'm not saying that because obviously the record is marginally better. It's a great spot for Kyle Pitts. Broncos are weak defensively over the middle. Drake London's going to have his problems. He's going to be guarded closely, suffocated probably by Patrick Surtain. The Broncos, I don't know what has people on Denver. It's one of two things, I suppose. One, granted, Atlanta's defense stinks. So Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton should be able to expose quite a bit of holes in that secondary. The other is obviously, this can go one of two ways. Riding the emotional high of almost knocking off the Chiefs and, getting down to the wire there and very nearly coming up with that W, or the other way, right? Emotional letdown of, like, you could have had a huge win within that division and for your playoff hopes and ending the Chiefs' unbeaten quest and all of that, but you blew it. Your kick was blocked. So I don't know. To me, I err on the side of Atlanta. We'll have more time on the other side, but what are your initial feelings on this game?
Well, you bring up a great point with how do they react to that near miss, that heartbreaking loss to the Chiefs last week. And I think it makes a huge difference with the fact that they now have Sean Payton as their head coach. I think he can build off that and spin that into a positive. I think they can look at that like, hey, we're on the brink of, getting into the postseason. We've got a chance to make the playoffs here. We just showed that we can go toe-to-toe with the two-time defending Super Bowl champ. We're a good team. We bounced back after being embarrassed by the Ravens. We're going to bounce back again. And I think this Falcons team is soft. And they're very injured. We can talk more about it on the other side.
I'll even give you a trend when we come back. Stay with us.
Your main event, Tale of the Tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6 foot 8. Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
That lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top. Oh!
Off balanced him a little bit. Take down the right there. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
And my goodness. How are you going to get more of that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round one halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work!
Look at that position, that's beautiful work. Hender's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the throw. Oh, he's out! He's out!
Trouble! And he's down! And he is done! The king has returned! Francis Ngannou is back.
Back here with Brady. We've got about a half hour left in the show. Thanks for hanging out with us. It is in-game live college football game day. Georgia continues to lead 24-17 against Tennessee. That game has about 2.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. Oregon, Wisconsin, 13-all, but Oregon is at the Wisconsin 8, 3.5 left in regulation in that one, and we did not get the cover, not even the push, in that San Jose State game against Boise State. And so, they're dead to us, both of them. That's okay. We'll move on. Let's try and cash other tickets. Washington State just had a passing touchdown to go up after the extra point anyway. It will be 21-7. There's the extra point at New Mexico. And Kansas and BYU just underway for people that like football after dark. That game is scoreless about 4 minutes into the contest. Late night of football watching ahead. Let's see if Georgia can close the door against Tennessee. That would mean a lot to me. That is for sure. Also just selfishly tracking the Celtics game in overtime. But I know, we're talking football. Brady, we were tracking, obviously, or projecting ahead our thoughts, all things Falcons and Broncos. I'll let you continue to expand with your thoughts. I will also throw you this trend. This isn't so much dealing with a side. The Broncos 8-2 to the first half over this year. Falcons are averaging 29 points, Falcons games, 29 points in the opening halves this year. The total this week is 22.5. Do you like first half production in this game?
No, I don't. I think the Falcons are going to struggle in this game. I mentioned that they're injured. They're pretty banged up here. If you look at, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and that's, a weakness for this team anyway. If you look at some of the numbers here, they are dead last in sacking the quarterback. I think it's 9 sacks that they have all season. They're 32nd in the NFL in getting after the quarterback. They also allow opposing quarterbacks a completion percentage of over 70%. This is a perfect situation for Bo Nix, a young kid who, is growing up in front of our eyes and being groomed by Sean Payton and doing pretty well in his rookie campaign, in my opinion. Now you give him a test where he's got a great offensive line, he's not going to be sacked, and he can complete 70% of his passes against this defense. I think that's a great recipe for the Denver Broncos here, and they're injured, are the Atlanta Falcons on that side of the ball. You take a look at the NFC South. It's a pretty putrid division, right? I mean, the Buccaneers have been impressive. You got to love their heart and Baker Mayfield, the heart and soul of that team. Falcons have been okay on occasion. We know the Panthers are awful, and the Saints are pretty awful too. But the Atlanta Falcons, they're 6-4 on the year, and they've won 4 games in their division. Outside of their division, they are an average team. And we saw what they did last week. I know it was a good spot for the Saints, the new coach bounce and the enthusiasm and everything. And that was kind of a tough spot to be in for Atlanta, but they absolutely stubbed their toe. They still could have won the game. I can't say his name now. He misses what? Younghoe Koo. He misses 3 or 4 field goals in that game. You talk about the Seattle Seahawks. We were talking about them. I don't think the Seattle Seahawks are a very good team. They went into Atlanta and ran through the building over these Atlanta Falcons. So I just, in division, I think the Falcons can handle their familiar opponents. When they get outside of that comfort zone, I don't think they're a very good team. They obviously don't have a great defense, and I think this is a bad situation going against a pretty legitimate Denver Broncos team that, like I say, has still a chance to make the playoffs, and I think Peyton uses last week's game to build upon that, hey, we're good. Let's continue to take care of business. No harm, no foul. Let's run roughshod over these Falcons that aren't very good, and let's get on with our business. The other thing is I do that football contest show with James Salinas, a former Super Contest winner who lives in Denver and not far from the stadium. And he said the buzz there around local Bronco fans is really starting to buzz again. Like back in the day, he said you could hear that stadium just shake when they made a big play, and the shake is coming back. These fans are starting to believe once again. And let's also throw in the fact that you're playing at a mile high in altitude, and that's a big home field advantage for the Denver Broncos. So my numbers, by the way, come to Denver at better than 5 points. So yeah, I think Denver's the right side here. I like everything for them: the situation, the numbers, the better side, the better team. I'll take Denver here. I'm already on them in a couple money line. I played Denver on the money line individually and in a money line parlay as well.
Brady, we got a Oregon field goal. Could not punch it in. Oregon field goal to go up 16-13, 2.5 minutes to go. Wisconsin has the ball.
Remember when I said that three in the hook was tricky? You know, Oregon was laying 3.5 live. I said, I don't know if I want that hook. Yeah, you're happy if you've got Wisconsin with that hook right now.
Well, how do you feel about Wisconsin at plus 680 to win the game? Could I tempt you? No, I don't think it's there. There's a lot of time left. There's a lot of the time is not necessarily in Wisconsin's in their favor. Because if you give Oregon enough time, they can score in a heartbeat. So, I would, even if they, tie it up here, maybe they take it to overtime. I don't know. But, that doesn't really suit. I think Oregon's going to win the game, find a way to win the game. Getting that 3.5 was attractive a few minutes ago. It is now 3-9 to Wisconsin 26. That number is ballooned to 11-1. If you like Wisconsin on the money line, obviously it is locked in terms of the spread. Nothing you can do there, and no surprise. Georgia 24-17. Now, since we're talking hooks, Georgia and Tennessee's getting the ball back here in its own territory at the 18-yard line. We're at the end of 3, so we still have a whole quarter to go. Georgia minus 7.5 plus 130.
I think, Adam, I'd actually lean with the favorite here. I mentioned it that, first of all, I said I think Georgia's a good bet in the second half. Then I felt that they were going to find their rhythm that they really didn't find in the first half, that I felt that they would, have more things come together for them in the second half. And it feels like they're starting to impose their will and slowly but surely pull away from this Tennessee team. I think they end up winning this game by 10 points. I don't know if Tennessee has enough offense to just trade punches down the stretch here. You've got an entire quarter left of football, so a lot of time. And I think over that time, Georgia will find a way to win by margin. I think that original number of 9 or so that looked so big early on, it looks very attainable at this point to me.
All right, well, Brady, no hook needed in Boston. Celtics at the buzzer. Jason Tatum, three-pointer in overtime against the Raptors. Yes, sir.
Hey, I hate to rain on your parade.
Around my basement.
Good for him. Good for him. But I don't necessarily think I should probably be on air with you at the same time when my Warriors beat your Celtics in the finals again this year. Okay? Steph might go for 50 again. I apologize.
Listen, they took him down recently in a meaningless regular season game, but it was a fun one. It was a fun one for sure. There's no doubt you've got the bragging rights in the playoffs. This is, listen, I mean, my Celtics bias aside, we know they're the defending champs, they're the best team in the NBA. Like there really isn't a question. There are other teams that are in the conversation, but the Celtics, they are the best team. I just bring up that now on Tuesday, we are going to have, assuming the Cavaliers don't screw it up, and I don't think they will, the Celtics against the what will be 15-0 Cleveland Cavaliers. That is going to be a very exciting game.
The Cavaliers, who, by the way, laid waste to my Warriors the night or two after they beat your Celtics. So, that'll be a beauty.
We talk like the Broncos in emotional come-downs, my friend. This is what we talk about.
Your main event, tail of the tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6'8". Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
That lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top. Oh!
Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown right there. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to Kimura that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round one halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work!
Look at that positioning, that's beautiful work. Henry's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the from. Oh, he's out! He's out!
Big trouble! And he's down! And he is done! The king has returned! Francis Ngannou is back!
All right, back here in-game live college football game day with Brady, and there are some games across the NFL that we have not gone too deep on. One that we have mentioned but haven't discussed all that much, the Browns and the Saints. This is one that, well, I know I'm on the dog. I'm not certain how Brady feels about it, so we'll see if we're aligned here. Jameis Winston, just before the bye, struggled mightily against that Chargers defense. 3 interceptions. The Saints defense, though, is not going to do the same thing. It stinks. It's banged up in the secondary. Winston's in a good spot to bounce back. Great spot for some of his pass catchers, David Njoku, Elijah Moore as well. Nick Chubb is in an awesome spot. Chargers run defense, super tough. Ravens before that, his season debut, not the case with the Saints. They are inept against the run. So there are a lot of different reasons to favor the Browns in this one on the offensive side of the ball. And then you look at the Saints and what they hope to do offensively, and honestly, who's going to do it, right? Like, Alvin Kamara's not quite right. Derek Carr's got almost nothing around him. He's going to face loads of pressure in the form of Myles Garrett in that defense. I'm looking at here. I mean, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, I know, was great last week. He had a couple of touchdowns and an awesome debut and all that. He's not going to repeat that. I know he's the focal, or I don't even know that he's the focal point. He's a number one option, I guess, by default. There's no Chris Olave, there's no Rashid Shaheed. Kind of has to be the guy. Carr's going to have to lean on somebody, but I just don't think. Maybe you see it differently, Brady, that the Saints have the ammunition to keep up with Winston. I would say I'd probably view this differently if we were still talking about Deshaun Watson or what one of the many fill-ins. But Jameis Winston is a guy that can actually sling it.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much aligned with you across the board. I think that new coach bounce theory was short-lived for the New Orleans Saints, and we often see that happen in all of sports. You fire a coach, you bring the new guy in, rah, he's inspired, and the Saints, showed up and had that effort. Now reality sets in, and the fact, like you mentioned, the fact is that Chris Olave is out and Shaheed is out, and the weapons are at a minimum for Derek Carr in this offense. They're still very injured, in all phases of the game. They no longer have Marshawn Lattimore in that defense, and the bye week comes at a perfect time for the Cleveland Browns. They were really struggling. Jameis came out when they made the switch. They had that boost themselves as well, and they beat the Ravens. And then they've struggled a couple games since then. Well, the bye, again, comes at a perfect time. I've said it many times, Adam, and I'm sure I'll say it many times again every football season, for years to come. I like to bet against a team that goes into their bye week on a roll. When they've won 3 or 4 or 5 in a row. I like to bet against them on the other side because they don't need to stop. They want that momentum to continue. I love to bet on a team that goes into the bye week struggling because they need to pause. They need to get healthy. They need to reset. They need to correct the problems that they've been having for the last few weeks prior to the bye week. And I think Stefanski's a good coach. We know he's won Coach of the Year before. I think he's shown, that this guy knows what he's doing and can fix this team, temporarily at least, and come out and win a ball game. I would say they're the better team probably than the New Orleans Saints. I made the game pick 'em, when you take home field advantage, that would say that the Browns are a point or a couple points better on a neutral field. And this came out in favor of the Saints -2. It was one that caught my eye right from the get-go, and apparently it caught the eyes of the bettors as well as they quickly bet it down to 1 and now have flipped the Browns to a favorite. And I'm in agreement. Browns pretty much all day long for many reasons in my mind.
Brady, I have no idea how to bet Patriots-Rams. It's a 4.5-point spread. Rams are the favorites on the road coming into New England. Short week. This is a team that got embarrassed in prime time on Monday night. I expect them to right the ship. I do think they're going to cover, but I don't say that with any real conviction in my voice. Drake May, I do respect on the other side. I don't think he's got a whole hell of a lot offensively around him, but I think he is potentially the real deal there for New England. There's so much on the other side, when healthy, which the Rams are, in the form of obviously Kupp and Nakua and Williams and Stafford leading the charge.
I think this number's just a little high. If the Rams lost the game, it would surprise me. But if they won by 6 or 7 points, I think I'd be a little surprised as well. I see this being a field goal game. I could see the Rams winning, 20-17. I think the Patriots are improving, and I think they continue to play hard. Drake May, continues to, I think, get better week after week, getting more comfortable with the system, more comfortable with his offense. I think the defense for the Patriots has always been decent. They're getting healthier. When I crunch, first of all, I made the number 3.5. And when I crunch all my stats, I come to 4. So, the line's pretty darn dead on. But, if I had to bet this, I have not bet the Patriots yet. And it wouldn't be such a bad thing in a teaser to take them to the other side of 10 to 10.5, something like that. Even a 10-point teaser to the other side of 14, that could be a good play as well. But I think it's just a little too many points. I don't think the Rams deserve to be a road favorite on the other side of a key number like 4, all the way to 4.5. I think you're probably going to see this game close 4 and maybe 3.5, Adam.
Looking around, Brady, because we've got one more segment left after this one. I want to circle back and, offer favorite plays and all of that across the Sunday slate. There aren't, it's not much that we haven't hit on across the NFL. I'm just looking here real quick to see, scan the board, see if there are any games that we really kind of missed, and not really. So you want to offer a thought or two on Texans-Cowboys Monday night?
I knew there was one that we had missed, and I knew it was that one, a real stinker for sure. I'd be taking the Cowboys, Adam. First of all, every week it seems that we go, well, this is a good spot for them to show up. Well, here we are again. It's another good spot for them to show up, and they continue to not show up. So it's hard to back them with faith, with conviction. We can talk more about it on the other side. This ugly one on Monday night.
Looking forward to it. Brady and I will be right back to wrap things up and give you some favorite plays for Sunday.
main event, tail of the tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6 foot 8. Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
That lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top. Oh!
Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown to him. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to Kimura that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round one halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work. Francis Ngannou wailing away.
Look how heavy he is on the hips. Look at that position. That's beautiful work. Hender's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the from. Oh, he's out! He's out!
Trouble! And he's down! And he is done! The king has returned! Francis Ngannou is back!
All right, we got a few more minutes here on In-Game Live College Football Game Day. Let us check in quickly on what is happening inside the top 25. Georgia continues to lead 24-17 at home against Tennessee with the ball. About 8.5 minutes to go in regulation in that one, so far from over, but hoping it's over. Texas A&M 37-3, crushing New Mexico State. That game has a matter of seconds left. We just got a touchdown from New Mexico, so that game has turned interesting. 21-14, Washington State is leading on the road. Kansas with the first touchdown of the game, up 7-0 at BYU. That game has 4 minutes and change to go in the opening quarter. Long ways to go. Brady, we've been talking about contest plays, Circus Survivor, breaking down every single game across the board, all of it. What are your absolute favorite plays for Sunday?
Let's see. I think my favorite plays are the Broncos, money line, lay the 2.5, you know, whatever you want to do. I think you're okay there either way. The Chargers are certainly one of my favorite plays that I identified early in the week. Again, money line, lay the 1.5, whatever you want to do there. The Raiders were definitely one of my favorite plays at 8. Now, you know, a little less value there, certainly at 7, but I still don't mind the Raiders at all. The Browns is a little different because now it's flipped to a favorite. Not a ton of difference there. You can play them on the money line, whatever you want to do there. I do like the Packers too. I would say those are probably, you know, if I was in a contest by myself and I was, you know, no attention to popularity and consensus and this and that and the other, and I was just putting my 5 best plays down, that would probably be it. Raiders, Chargers, Broncos, Packers, and Browns. There's a 5-0 for you, Adam.
I love that. Is that going to be a funny money parlay before the end of the night?
Maybe so. You've inspired me. An IGL funny money parlay on a Saturday night. A tradition like none other.
Send me a copy of that ticket. Maybe I'll do the same. Listen, I've talked about a lot of the plays that I really like, obviously. If I'm talking about the spread, if you're talking about straights, you know, love the Lions. Love them to win going away. They could win this game by, you know, 20 plus points in my mind, and I believe they will. I like the who was it? I like the Vikings quite a bit as well to bounce back. Pardon me, I gotta fix this. See what you see behind me. Should have done that during the break. I like the Vikings quite a bit as well.
Police.
Those two
Do
teams.
they have a light flashing
You
on
gotta go. Yeah, it's the ring light shining through. You can see it in the Boston skyline if you look very carefully off in the distance. Yeah, there it is. Listen, these things will happen to us. At least I'm not dark on one side of it, looking like the like Two-Face in the Nolan Batman movies. The way my light blew out. I got a new one. We got a new light. We're good. Yeah, I like the Niners this week as well, but I'm not certain that I love San Francisco to cover. Feels like, even though it's ripe for the spot where that would happen, 6.5. At least we're inside of a touchdown. We're inside that key number of 7. But
I think that's one of the tougher games on the card.
Yeah, but I do like San Francisco to win. I definitely like San Francisco to win. So if I am, putting some like a money line parlay, if I'm throwing spreads out the window and I'm just looking at money lines, I would, without thinking twice, put San Francisco, Minnesota, Detroit all together. Now, unfortunately, they're all pretty big favorites, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's in the vicinity of even money or even, slightly plus money. You're not getting, a real bang for your buck there. If you wanted to throw something else in to maybe make it a little bit more interesting, obviously, in terms of the value,
you could go Browns.
Man,
you like the Browns. Okay.
I do like
Chargers,
the Browns. Yeah, you can
some of
go
these
Browns,
short spreads,
absolutely.
Whether it's the dog or the favorite. You could throw the Chiefs in there, but I think that's risky business. I'd probably go with the Bills.
I know you would. Yeah.
Right.
Bills Chiefs, that just might be a stay away from me. I don't know what to make of that game. This is one of those.
I'm not involved in that one or the Steelers Ravens.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable putting my money against Patrick Mahomes at this point because I have done it and been wrong.
No reason you should feel comfortable doing that.
I feel like every single time during this 7-game winning streak as an underdog that he has, not only covered but won outright, I feel like I've been on the other side. So I'm not saying I
was on the other side last week with Denver. That was a winner. I didn't have Denver on the money line. Yeah. But I've been through two Super Bowls when he's beaten the Niners and also a Super Bowl or I don't know. Take it away.
Pain in the butt, that Mahomes guy. Thanks to Matt, everyone behind the scenes, all of our guests, Brady, I am Adam. You know what? Let's talk to you again here on The Grid tomorrow.